Spider-Man is my favorite superhero ever, and that sentiment holds true for millions of people around the world. The stories told using this character are usually extremely phenomenal. I grew up on the Raimi trilogy, as did many of the people around me. I played the PlayStation 2 games, the PSP games, I watched the Amazing Spider-Man duology, read the Ultimate Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man comic runs, and adored the recent Spider-Man PlayStation games. Unfortunately, though, I didn't connect too well with the MCU's debut of Spider-Man. I love Tobey Maguire, and I had a lot of appreciation for Andrew Garfield, but while I found the MCU's Spider-Man films entertaining, Tom Holland's Spider-Man didn't convey the things I loved about Spider-Man. He felt too boyish, too immature, and the movies felt as if they didn't know how to tell a Spider-Man story. He relied too much on other people, lacking any independence to fight for himself. The fundamental and familiar themes present in most Spider-Man media today weren't strong enough. However, all of those feelings changed drastically with Spider-Man No Way Home. The character was developed and executed beautifully, his character finally turning into the things that make Spider-Man, Spider-Man. And after watching the film, I genuinely think that Spider-Man No Way Home did wonders with Tom Holland's iteration of Spider-Man. As I mentioned before, Holland's Spider-Man felt excessively boyish, relying way too much on crutches provided to him by the people around him. He was always seeking help from others, unable to accomplish much by himself. The problem with this is, since it's in our nature to draw comparisons, many people compared Holland's version of the character to the already established iterations of Spider-Man at the time. These iterations had already progressed considerably with their development existing as well-developed and strong Spider-Man characters, incorporating the themes that are nowadays so often associated with Spider-Man. Themes of sacrifice, responsibility, and an overarching sense of isolation. Peter Parker was almost always alone. He had some friends, sure, but the things he faced he usually faced alone, in order to avoid hurting those around him. Holland's Spider-Man lacked these qualities, instead possessing an irresponsible and somewhat irritating immaturity, involving everyone around him in what he had to go through. He always went to others for help, and it felt somewhat insincere, as he was always messing up. Watching No Way Home, however, gave me a much deeper appreciation for the early MCU films, because I realized that Holland was supposed to be this boyish, irresponsible kid in these earlier films. He was supposed to be working through what it means to be a superhero. He was meant to make these mistakes because he was still growing into who he was supposed to be. The MCU trilogy was his origin story, spanned out over 3 films. They gave him more time to develop. The reason he wasn't able to do anything himself was because he was still learning, still taking his time to learn what it meant to be a superhero, what it meant to be Spider-Man. And by the end of this film, he finally learned to rely on himself. Throughout this film, Peter is dragged through hell. He constantly has to face seemingly insurmountable odds and challenges unlike anything he's ever faced before, all the while struggling between his identities as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He has to face the consequences of his actions and how they impact and influence the people around him, and he realizes that everything he's done and everything he has to do can hurt those he loves the most. Just being who he is will hurt the people that love him. He faces obstacle after obstacle, and the worst part is everybody around him is deeply affected by everything, and it took him quite a while to realize that. 3 full movies, almost. The impact he has as Spider-Man on the people around him is extremely dangerous. He loses everyone and everything just because he decided to make the ethically right decision. This movie did an excellent job at portraying Peter's final realization, when he finally sees that everyone is happier without him, when he finally sees that Ned and MJ will be safer and happier without him in their lives. He lets it be. He lets them be, no matter how much it hurts him. And I'd just like to take a moment to say, Tom Holland did a stellar job as Peter Parker in this movie. It was a fantastic performance, and it really felt like he grew with his character. His previous performances were great, but they didn't feel, as I mentioned before, sincere. But with this movie, he really, really did wonders. Very admirable. What resonated with me a lot is the fact that in the MCU, it wasn't Ben who told Peter that great power comes with great responsibility. It was May. For this Peter, Aunt May was the stand-in, essentially, for Uncle Ben. And I think when she said that to him, other than being giddy and kind of emotional at the obvious fan service, I realized that this was his beginning. These are the events that lead up to him being a Spider-Man like the ones we've seen so much of in recent years. The Spider-Man who has to live with these sacrifices. The Spider-Man that loses people. The Spider-Man that loses people but keeps on pressing on to help the people that need him. and when May died, it made all the more sense to me. This is Peter's origin story. This is where he grows from. This is how he becomes Spider-Man. No longer a boy playing dress-up, but a man doing his duty for his people, hiding his identity from the people that he cares about to protect them, instead of telling everyone who he is, because he finally understands the consequences that keeping them in his life will bring. After the events of the last few films and everything he's had to go through, he's finally grown into his own character. These movies gradually molded him into a strong, well-developed Spider-Man. He's become similar to the Spider-Man we've grown to love in recent years. He's no longer going to rely on Tony Stark or Doctor Strange or anybody else. He's become what Spider-Man has always been, an everyman, looking out for the people on the ground, going about it alone, protecting the people that need him. He finally understands sacrifice, responsibility, and growth. He lost his aunt, his best friend, his uncle, his girlfriend, and everyone in his life. And as morbid and difficult as all of that is, that isolation and aloneness is what makes him Spider-Man. Because now he's doing everything on his own terms. Without the outside influence of anybody or anything else, he won't put anybody else in danger. His immaturity and childish choices have evolved, and now he's taken the steps necessary to protect the people in his life. That difficult decision he made, sacrificing his relationship with his friends just to protect them, is a perfect example of what Peter Parker is. A man who will let himself be hurt in order to protect others. Peter making his own suit at the end of the movie symbolizes a lot. Up till now, he was so reliant on Stark tech or magical gear. He didn't know how to do anything himself. But finally, he's letting go of everything and everyone and doing what he needs to do. And it's beautiful, because finally, these movies have turned Peter Parker, turned Spider-Man, into who he was supposed to be. I find it exceptional that his character was able to be developed so well, especially with the enormous cast. The development and execution of every character was so magnificently done. Seeing every character executed to near perfection, I felt extremely satisfying. And the influence of Spider-Man PS4 is really prominent to me. I see a lot of subtle references and hits to it, and I plan on rewatching it soon to pick up some more. I absolutely fucking loved this movie, and I'm glad I was able to experience it. I'm excited for more to come, and I'm really excited to see more of Andrew Garfield. He really stole the show. Some more personal channel things to talk about now. Thank you all so fucking much for 200 subscribers. When I started this channel, I did not expect to make it this far, but here we are. Fitting that my first ever video was about Spider-Man, and now I'm talking about Spider-Man. Well, thank you guys for a milestone that we hit. And thank you guys again for over 4,000 views now on my Arcane video. When I wrote the script, it was 3,000. Now it's 4,000. And I am... It's crazy. It's crazy. I did not expect that video to do as well as it did. So, it means a lot to me. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all. It means the world to me. I have some other stuff planned, so keep an eye out for that. I won't talk about it too much because I end up often talking about things and then never doing them, so I'm just not gonna say anything. You will see it when it's out. If it's out, you know, I don't know, whatever happens. But, yeah. Again, thank you guys so much. Much love. That's all I have to say for this video. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing if you're new, and click the notification bell so you never miss my uploads. My Twitter, Discord, and other socials are linked below, so come by if you'd like to join the Lighthouse community. I also occasionally stream on Twitch, so drop in if you'd like. It'd mean a lot to me. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to look for the light, and goodbye for now.